The air crackled with tension. Director Wilson's face was grim, a stark contrast to the metals gleaming on his chest. He paced before a large screen, satellite images flashing across it.
We've received credible intel of a plot to cripple our intelligence network.
Eyes turned towards two figures seated at the table. Agent James, his face a stoic mask, and Agent Lee, her gaze sharp and calculating. They were the agency's finest, their reputations built on countless successful missions, their instincts honed to perfection.
Our intel suggests that a group known as the Serpent's Eye is planning to infiltrate this very agency, their goal to gain access to our most sensitive operations and dismantle us from within.
James's eyes hardened. Lee, ever calm, subtly adjusted her position, her hand instinctively moving closer to her concealed weapon. The briefing room, usually abuzz with activity, was eerily silent. The weight of the threat hung heavy in the air, a palpable entity. The urban jungle throbbed with life. A cacophony of sounds, car horns, distant sirens, the murmur of countless conversations filled the air. But for James and Lee, navigating the crowded city streets, all these sounds faded into background noise. Their focus was laser-sharp, their senses on high alert. They were tracking their target, a known associate of the Serpent's Eye. He was their only lead, a thread they hoped would unravel the entire conspiracy. They moved swiftly, shadows amongst shadows, their movements betraying years of training.
He's getting into a car. Black sedan, license plate ending in 741.
She didn't need to elaborate further. James, always in sync with her, was already moving, his eyes scanning the street for the vehicle. The chase was on. The black sedan screeched through the city streets, its driver clearly aware of being followed. James and Lee in their unmarked car pursued relentlessly. The chase was a blur of speed and adrenaline, a dangerous dance through rush-hour traffic. Suddenly the sedan swerved into a narrow alleyway.
He's not getting away.
They exited the car, weapons drawn, and moved swiftly into the darkness of the alley. The alley was a dead end. The target, a wiry man with fear etched on his face, was trapped. He glanced frantically from side to side, his escape route blocked by the two agents.
Don't move.
The man froze, his eyes darting between the two agents. The interrogation was short, brutal, and effective. Under Lee's expert questioning, the man cracked. "They call him the Insider," the informant gasped, his voice trembling.
He's the one who's been feeding them information.
The revelation hit James and Lee like a physical blow. There was a mole, someone within the agency itself.
Who is he?
Lee pressed, her voice steely despite the shock that rippled through her. The informant hesitated, fear battling with a desperate desire to save himself.
He's someone close to you, someone you trust.
James felt a chill run down his spine. The informant's words echoed in his ears. Someone they trusted. It couldn't be true, could it? His mind raced, sifting through faces, names, past interactions.
Back at headquarters, the atmosphere was electric with tension. The news of a mole had sent shockwaves through the agency.
We need to find this traitor, Lee. No stone unturned.
Agreed. Let's start by analyzing all the data and reviewing every bit of security footage.
James and Lee worked tirelessly, desperately trying to piece together the puzzle. Suspicion fell upon everyone, every colleague, every friend, every interaction was now viewed through a lens of doubt and mistrust.
It's hard to believe, but we can't trust anyone right now.
I know. The weight of betrayal is heavy, but we have to stay focused.
It was during a late-night review of surveillance footage that Lee noticed something. A subtle gesture, a fleeting glance at a secure file, a detail so small it would have been easily missed, but not by her. Not by Lee, whose attention to detail was legendary.
Wait a minute. Rewind that footage. Look at this.
What is it?
That gesture, that glance, it couldn't be, but the evidence is right here.
The realization hit her like a thunderbolt. The mole was someone they had worked alongside for years, someone they considered a friend and confidant, someone they would never have suspected.
No, it can't be, but the evidence doesn't lie.
We have to confront this, James. We can't let this betrayal go unpunished.
The weight of the discovery hung heavy in the air as they stood before the wall of monitors, their faces illuminated by the flickering glow of surveillance footage. The warehouse stood on the outskirts of the city, a hulking silhouette against the dying light. It was a desolate, forgotten place, perfect for a clandestine meeting, perfect for a trap.
James and Lee approached cautiously, their weapons drawn, their senses heightened. They had tracked the Insider to this location. He was their only lead, their only chance to expose the Serpent's Eye and neutralize the threat to their agency.
As they entered the warehouse, the air grew heavy with anticipation. The silence was deafening, broken only by the sound of their own footsteps echoing on the concrete floor.
Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was the Insider, a smug smile playing on his lips. "You shouldn't have come," he said. his voice laced with a chilling calmness. "You're walking into a trap."
"We know who you are," Lee stated, her voice unwavering, "and we know what you've done."
The insider chuckled, a humorless sound that echoed through the vast emptiness of the warehouse. "Do you have any idea who you're dealing with?" He sneered. "The serpent's eye is more powerful than you can imagine. You're out of your depth."
As he spoke, figures began to emerge from the shadows surrounding James and Lee. They were outnumbered, but not outmatched.
"You made one mistake," James interjected, his voice ice cold. "You underestimated us."
He glanced at Lee, a silent understanding passing between them. In that instant, the warehouse erupted in a flurry of motion. The warehouse echoed with the sounds of battle, the thud of bodies hitting concrete, the sharp crackle of gunfire, the gasps of exertion. James and Lee fought with the ferocity and precision of cornered wolves, their movements a blur of lethal grace. They were outnumbered, but not outmatched. Their training, their instincts, and their unwavering determination gave them the edge.
One by one, the figures surrounding them fell until only the insider remained standing. He lunged at Lee, desperation etched on his face.
She dodged his attack with ease and delivered a swift kick to his chest, sending him crashing to the ground. It was over.
The city stretched before them, a glittering tapestry of lights against the velvet backdrop of the night. From their vantage point atop a skyscraper, James and Lee surveyed the urban landscape. The air was cool and crisp, a stark contrast to the heat of the battle they had just endured.
"It's never over, is it?" Lee spoke softly, her gaze fixed on the cityscape.
James shook his head slowly. "No, it's not, but for now, we've bought ourselves some time."
They stood in silence for a moment, each lost in their thoughts, the weight of their responsibility pressing down on them. The city, oblivious to the threat it had faced, throbbed with life. But for James and Lee, the shadows held a new significance. They were the unseen guardians, the silent protectors, forever vigilant against the darkness that lurked beneath the surface. Their work was never done.